I just realized, like, I had the camera wrong because I can't really see what's going on. And my camera was wrong. It was pointing at my shelf, and I was just showing off this empty bottle of Angel's Envy the whole time. Just making sure the whole YouTube audience knows I'm a fucking alcoholic, so. There we go. Oh. Whew. Finally did something with the camera, I guess. Hello guys, it's your boy, Marcus here. I finally did something with the camera. It's still awful because it's the same camera, but I figured a change of angle, change of my background, and a change of the lighting might help something. It probably just shows off how sweaty I am when I record these videos, so that's always fun. It's also going to be a big experiment to see if I can even stay on camera the whole time, because usually I'm sitting in a chair and I have to worry about that, but since I'm like a manic depressive mess, I move around a lot sometimes, and I'm going to be off camera, so forgive me. Maybe when this gets a little more professional, we'll have a better camera, and I won't have just this massive cardboard box to stand it on. Now for a proper introduction. Hello, it's your boy, Leon Kennedy fan, XXX69 here. I thought I would take a break from making my Leon X self-insert fanfics for just a little bit to make this video. As you guys know, it's October, the month of spook scares and goth GFs, and we all know what that means, that a spooky game series is just what the doctor ordered. So, more seriously, last video was a little long, it was a little heavy. Let's try to keep this one a little light. I just want to be a little entertaining and talk about something interesting. I think every now and then Capcom gets this wild hair up their ass and they decide that they want to throw these gimmicks out. But they don't want to just throw these little gimmicky ideas out because they know that it might not make money, so they kind of slap the Resident Evil logo on it because they know they have fans that'll buy that shit. So, what I want to talk about today are 4 sort of gimmicky games. 2 of them I've talked about before, and 2 of them I haven't talked about before, but I'm excited to talk about nonetheless. I like to call these games the light gun games, given that they were controlled by a light gun, which is a bit of a misnomer because one of these games didn't even get to use the light gun in the United States because of a certain event. Can't say that without getting demonetized, but anyways. And the other 2 use the PlayStation Move controller and the Wii nunchucks and all that, but you know, the light gun games rolls off the tongue a bit better than saying 4 random gimmicky games. So, here we go. Without further ado, I hope the new camera angles are doing something. They're not. I know they're garbage. You don't have to tell me. You don't believe me. You don't have to tell me. But I'm working with what I have right now, so I hope that's doing something for you. And without further ado, enjoy the video. Ooh-woo. Oh. There go the lights. On cue. So, today we're going to be talking about 4 games. 2 of them, like I've said, are 2 that I've discussed before, Resident Evil Survivor and Resident Evil Dead Aim. The other 2 are Umbrella Chronicles and Darkside Chronicles. Yes, I am aware that Survivor 2 exists, but it was never released here in Freedom Land, so I have absolutely no experience with it. And if I missed any other light gun games, feel free to tell me, but just understand that I'm human, so mistakes will always be made. One more disclaimer before we go off. I, personally, never own a light gun, so my opinion on these games might be skewed a little bit. Now, with that housekeeping out of the way, we can go ahead and jump into this video on Resident Evil, the 4 light gun games. Let's go ahead and start this off with Resident Evil Survivor, a game we already kind of know the broad strokes of my opinion on if you saw my Resident Evil 4 video, and to the 3 or 4 Survivor fans out there, I'm sorry, but I really don't like this game. Survivor is janky, poorly written, and maybe it might be better with a light gun, but from my understanding, we over here in the States didn't even get to use the light gun on the game because of a certain shooting event that took place around the time. That little problem obviously didn't help the game at all, but I think the worst part of this game overall is the story. Let me explain. You play as an amnesiac in not Raccoon City, but the other city that was overrun by zombies. Sheena Island is a whole city owned by Umbrella, because apparently pharma companies can do that. Since Umbrella owns it, obviously right after the events of RE2 and 3, we get Raccoon City 2 Electric Boogaloo. From the word go, it's clear they want to set up some super big twist with your character being an amnesiac. Not that that's a bad thing, but in the game this poorly written and voiced, it's bound to fall flat. You're told at the start that you're Vincent Goldman, the man running the city and responsible for the outbreak. You spend the majority of the game thinking you're the bad guy until you get to the end where some kid tells you that you're actually Ark Thompson, the detective that was sent to investigate Vincent. big twist. After this revelation, Ark suddenly remembers that his best friend Leon S. Kennedy sent him to investigate the town in the worst attempt at a tie-in I've ever seen. Does Leon ever mention the supposed Ark Thompson? Not that I can find. Do normal people refer to their friends by their full name and middle initial? Not usually. And Ark is completely forgotten after this game, as it should be. Ignoring the massive plot hole, which is that Leon was captured by the government shortly after RE2, so he couldn't have given a message like this to Ark Thompson to begin with, this twist just isn't written very well. And even if it was written well at all, the voice acting and the performance here, it just doesn't save anything. Not that Resident Evil was ever a paragon of voice acting, but coupled with the bad writing here, it's torturous to sit through. So now, after I've finished bashing this game for 3 minutes, let's give it some positives. I mean, at least this game pretended to be survival horror, unlike the rest of the games on this list. This is also, an obscure title that I do want to point a light to, so if anybody is interested, obviously, go seek it out yourself. You don't have to listen to my opinion. My opinion is hardly gospel on anything. However, my opinion is that this is the worst Resident Evil game I've ever had the displeasure of playing, so let's move on to RE Dead Aim. Once again, if you watch my Resident Evil 4 video, you've got the broad strokes of my opinion on this game. Overall, this game is serviceable, and it's fun. If you ignore when the characters kind of go off model and Bruce gets a bit of a chicken neck, it's good to look at. I mean, it's no Crysis, it's not a graphical powerhouse, but the art and the graphics for the cabin corridors and the rooms make the ship feel just the right kind of claustrophobic, so it gives it a nice Resident Evil vibe. This game also at least pays lip service to the idea of being a survival horror, even if it's probably really not. I mean, every time you run into a save room, you get about 15 things of handgun ammo, and you can pick up an assault rifle within the first 10 minutes. After that, the normal zombies don't really feel that terrifying anymore. It's easily the story that steals the show here, if only for the fact that it plays out kind of like a weird fanfic with OCs written by a middle school RE fan. Listen, no judgment, we've all been there. I wrote my fair share of bad fanfic smut when I was young. We all did it. Anyways, you play as Bruce McGivern, a blonde, one-liner dropping hero type who can't decide if he wants to be Cajun or just vaguely Southern from scene to scene. You team up with Fong Ling, a mysterious Asian spy who seems to be on the good side but keeps her true intentions hidden, and suddenly I feel like I've seen them before. Yeah, these two are just basically Leon and Ada, but with worse character writing and bad voice direction. It's kind of magical in a way. I don't know if they did it on purpose because Leon and Ada's pairing was so good in RE2, or if it was a total accident, but it doesn't really matter. The way these two parallel Leon and Ada is uncanny. So, scuffed Leon and Ada find themselves facing off against Sephiroth, who doesn't seem to know he's in the wrong game. Dude also gets blown up in the first cutscene. Jokes aside, the guy's name is Morpheus D. Duval, and according to the Resident Evil wiki, he was an R&D researcher that got blamed for the outbreak in the Arklay Mountains. He decided that the next logical course of action would be to blackmail America and China into giving him tons of money so he wouldn't drop a T-virus nuke on them. Of course, America doesn't negotiate with terrorists, so here we are with Leon, I mean Bruce, chasing after this bad Final Fantasy OC. The story kinda goes off the rails a little later when China agrees to give Morpheus the money, and since they don't need Fong Ling investigating anymore, they try to laser sniper from space. You know, as you do, because telling your agent to go home would give you an international calling charge, I guess. Bruce saves her, and I feel like I've seen this before. We get treated to an unintentionally hilarious scene where Bruce kind of looms over Fong Ling with a knife. He doesn't say a word or explain what he's doing. Bruce just kind of straddles the poor girl and eyes her up for a solid 10 seconds and slices her arm open. If you hadn't been paying attention, it's the weirdest thing, and it's still awkwardly directed even if you know what's happening, which is that Bruce is cutting a tracking chip out of her arm. I don't really know how he knew that was there. Maybe I missed something, but I don't remember anything telling him that she had that. Finally, we get to the end. Fong Ling navigates you through a maze, you play the weirdest game of whack-a-mole ever with Morpheus, who is now a giant blob and was a weird, vaguely feminine monster with stiletto heels made of flesh. Yeah, I don't know what they were doing with Morpheus' character either. Also, the subtitles never match the voice acting. I guess the QA team took the week off too with the writers. For as much shit as I just gave the game, Dead Aim is still fun. It controls fine, it isn't offensive to look at, and I enjoyed it for what it is. Also, once again, it pretends to be survival horror, while the next two on the list don't even try. Umbrella Chronicles and Darkside Chronicles are last on the list because I have the least amount to say about these two. Mostly because if you've played the mainline entries, you've already played these games. The Chronicle games altogether summarize the events of RE0, 1, 2, 3, and Code Veronica in the form of an on-rail shooting gallery a la Time Crisis or House of the Dead. Both add a little background story that, from what I understand, are both canon, which is kind of odd because according to the wiki, the recap sections are not canon and they even retcon a few elements of the stories. Either way, the background story in Umbrella Chronicles goes like this. The whole story is from the perspective of Albert Wesker. We get to see little pieces of what he gets up to behind the scenes in different parts of the RE story covering 0, 1, 2, and 3. His story involves a whole new character named Sergei Vladimir, who was apparently just there the whole time, but we never knew. Sergei is a loyal Umbrella officer trying to keep a hold of the data Umbrella collected while Wesker is trying to steal that information and delete it so that no one else can get their hands on it. I think. Don't quote me on that. It was all kind of weird. You get to see Wesker getting infected and going superhuman as well, and then all the running around he did in the background during RE1. The rest of the game is retelling old events. The background story is a bit of a miss for me because it comes out of nowhere and basically retcons everything by saying, yeah, this Sergei dude was literally here the whole time. Not that it's bad, and not that Darkside is bad either. Both of these games are very entertaining in my eyes. And speaking of Darkside, Darkside is easily my favorite of the two, and that is because it's Leon's story. I'm biased as fuck when it comes to Leon, we all know it, I'm not even going to try to hide it. Darkside summarizes RE2 and Code Veronica, as well as takes you through the sub-story of Operation Javier. Operation Javier is the mission that got Leon and Jack Krauser so well acquainted for RE4. In this side distraction, you get to see what drove Krauser to seek out Wesker and the power of the virus. Both of these games are fun, and it feels a little mean for me to say they're just gimmicky throwaway games on the level of Dead Aim and Survivor. Still, at the same time, neither of these games really feel like a good Resident Evil game. And don't get me wrong, the gameplay is solid, voice acting and writing is serviceable. The idea of using a spin-off game to summarize events from the past games like this is a novel concept. Still, like a few other games I can think of, they don't really feel like good Resident Evil games. Similar to RE5 and 6, I feel like they're good games. They're fun games that, if they didn't have the Resident Evil name on them, they might have done better. And there's a lot more Resident Evil games that maybe don't necessarily feel like Resident Evil games and would do better if they had a different name, like Resident Evil 5, 6, and hell, if you ask me, 7 doesn't really feel like a Resident Evil game. It feels more like something else, but I should probably leave now with that hot take. I feel like one shouldn't probably linger too long after they say Resident Evil 7 wasn't a good Resident Evil game. It's probably how you get shot, so I'm gonna take my leave, but anyways, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. Be kind to each other, we only get so many trips around the sun, and I'll catch you in the next video.